Hello and welcome to Gardening at 58 North. In this video I'll be separating my two Amaryllis plants here. So what's happened is basically the mother plant here has been growing for 2 or 3 years now in this pot. Been doing really well, but this year it's sent up a little baby plant on the side. If I leave the two in here, there's not going to be enough space for them, because to be honest, when this is fully swollen in autumn time, when it's at its largest, the bulb is almost too big for this pot on its own. So with another plant in it, it'll be far too big. So I'm just going to remove these two bulbs. I'm going to separate this one, put it into here, put this one back in the original, the main mother plant in the original pot, and add a bit more compost if it needs it or not. So it should come out fairly easy, but as you can see, the pot is actually slightly elliptical. That's because this has grown to the side and it's pushed it. So it might be a little bit of a struggle, but I'll try teasing it out. There we are. You can see it's a well potted Amaryllis. It's got really quite root bound. You can see there's a lot of healthy roots there though, which is good. There's not too many dead roots, so it's a sign there hasn't been overwatered or anything, and they're all quite healthy. They're still white. There's not too many brown roots. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove a bit of this dead material first, so I can see around the bulbs a little bit easier. It's fine to remove any of the brown dead material. And next I'm just going to remove some of the soil so I can see what I'm working with, have an idea of how big this baby bulb is, and see if it has any roots of its own, which it should do by now because it's put on quite a bit of good growth. This is the first year I've seen this bulb, so this baby is only a few months old. So it's not going to have the biggest of bulbs, but you can see it's already fattening up quite nice. So I'm just going to use the stick to help work away some of this compost so I can see what I'm working with. So there you are, you can see the baby bulb there is attached to the mother plant there. There won't be a huge point of attachment, so I'm just going to carefully just lever it off by pulling the baby plant away and down from the mother plant. I should hear a snapping sound as it disconnects from the mother bulb. There we are, that's it snapped off almost. That's it. And then I just need to try and remove as much root as possible so that the baby plant has a good chance of surviving on its own. But as you can probably see in there, there's a real mixture of its own roots and its mother's roots, so it's going to be very difficult to take them all out. So unfortunately it probably will be a bit stressed, and the best time for doing this is actually when they're both dormant, so you don't get any roots being damaged. But because this is only just growing up now and the pot's so small, if I leave this until they're dormant, they're both going to be far too large, and I'm going to have some real issues in the future with both competing for the small space. So I'm just carefully trying to pull these roots off and out. So there we are. I'll just set the mother plant to the side. You can see there the baby plant. It's got its own little bulb attached just about here. And you can see it's got a few roots. That should be just about enough, hopefully. I'll have to be a bit careful with this because this will be struggling a little bit as it's got a lot of leaves and not many roots. So then I'm just going to use some multi-purpose compost with a bit of added perlite, and perlite's just because Amaryllis bulb is like a very free draining. So I'm going to have a nice free draining mix so that I don't get any root problems, because Amaryllis bulbs are quite susceptible to root rot, which is when the soil is too wet, the roots kind of rot away and get waterlogged. So I'm just going to check that's about right, which is about there. And we're going to fill in around holding this up, that way the roots are going to be covered in the compost and they're not all going to be squished in the bottom, they're going to be evenly spaced hopefully. And then I'm just going to continue filling it up, giving it a little tamp down to make sure that the compost is settled around the roots. And because this is quite unstable with not many roots yet, I'm going to fill it a little bit higher just to cover the top of the bulb so that the bulb is completely buried. There we are, I'll give that water and I'll give you guys an update in a few weeks' time as to how the baby plant does. Hopefully it will start swelling up and even start producing some more roots. So the next challenge now is to put up the mother plant. So I'm putting the mother plant back in its original pot. So I'm just going to remove some of this old compost and any roots that look like they might be dead, because this compost is about 3 years old now, so it's well past its best and it needs some fresher compost, because the new compost will be better draining. It'll also have more nutrients in it because all the nutrients will have been depleted by this compost over the years, and the structure of it's starting to break down a bit as well. I'll just remove it all there. Make sure there's no dead roots, but actually this one's quite good, there doesn't seem to be many dead roots. So I'll just double check the height. I'm going to put a little bit of compost in the bottom, but not much, because otherwise it will raise the height too much and this will be sticking out the soil. There's a bit in the bottom, check the height again. I think that's about right. I'm actually going to raise the plant slightly because I've found when this was planted before, it only had that much of the roots in the soil. That's just because the plant grows its roots down, the roots never really come up. So this kind of section, although it's covered, never had any roots in this part of the soil. So this will give the plant a little bit more soil. Because I'm not going to be moving this plant around much and it's got so many roots, being this high up in the pot shouldn't be an issue. If I have this planted in the garden or outside, then I'd plant the bulb probably about half or maybe up to the neck with the compost so it doesn't fall over. As I say, in the environment inside my house, there's not any wind, so it shouldn't fall over. And even with the big flowers that it will get in about a year's time, the roots are quite well established in this one, and I'm not worried about the bulb toppling over. So there we are, that's the bulb surrounded again with compost. Give it a little tamp down. I may top this up slightly if the compost sinks a bit further, because this is the maximum height I'd like to have this bulb. Let's say ideally I would plant it lower, but because this is such a small pot, any lower and the roots don't have much space to grow into. So there we are. That's the mother plant, nicely planted up now. Put them back on the sunny windowsill where they were. Give them plenty of light, plenty of feed. What will happen is this will swell up a lot over the year, and it'll be fat and full of energy again, ready for flowering next year. And the baby plant will do the same. I don't think the baby plant will flower next year because it's only, as I say, a few months old. And I think after 1 year it won't have enough time to build up enough energy to flower for next year. But we'll see. Hopefully in a year or two, hopefully the baby plant will also be flowering.